spiel. Well, we're live. Good morning. Welcome to the Biz Chat. We're live on Facebook and on LinkedIn today, where I talk with business owners, entrepreneurs, professionals about what's working in their life and what they have going on. Today, we're talking about something I think a lot of people are feeling, which is stress, especially if you're running a business. But not being busy, what's happening, not just being busy, but what's happening in your body and how that impacts how you show up, make decisions, and operate every day. The Biz Chat is brought to you by Perfect Virtual Assistants, where we help entrepreneurs and professionals create space, buy back their time, and get the support they need to grow. And I'm joined today by Kristin Derus Dore, owner of Eden Biofeedback, where she helps people take control of their health and reduce stress using non-invasive, technical-based biofeedback, technology-based biofeedback. So welcome, Kristin.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. I was thrilled to be here this morning.
I'm very excited to talk about this. I know probably the majority of the people who are going to be watching this don't even know what biofeedback is. So let's start there. Tell us what biofeedback is.
Well, absolutely. The term was coined in the 60s, but the idea of biofeedback has been around really for centuries, because it's just the idea of gaining control over a seemingly unconscious process in our body. So like aura rings are kind of give you some biofeedback information, for example, and other methods of biofeedback include things like meditating. You know how some people who get very into yoga can like control their heart rate, things like that. So there's a lot under the biofeedback umbrella. I use a technology that was created over 20 years ago, and it's a device about the size of like maybe a dictionary, if you remember smallish dictionaries. And it can read things like the signals of your body and figure out what's been stressful to you. But there are so many different things under that umbrella.
Okay, so what are you actually measuring?
So the biofeedback device I use has wrist and ankle bands and kind of a little sweatband across your forehead. And from those places that the device is touching your body, it measures what's called a GSR, a galvanic skin response. And it can send frequencies throughout your nervous system as well, through those points that it's touching your body, to figure out where stress has gotten things out of balance.
Well, stress gets things way out of balance. And I know you work with a lot of business owners, and we're talking with a lot of business owners here. Why should business owners actually care about their stress levels?
Well, when you think about your...
Can I back up for a second? Because you did mention, this does measure your stress. We're kind of talking about stress. So why should business owners actually care about that?
Yeah, well, when you think about your business, maybe you have inventory, maybe you have a website, maybe you have employees, you have all sorts of things, you have skills, you have product you deliver, you have ideas. Whatever you have or sell, the most important thing is actually you, the business owner. Because if something happened to you, the business owner, if you, to your point, Lisa, aren't making good decisions, are too unwell to get out of bed, you're stressed out, so it's causing all these physical problems, your business will suffer because you're suffering. And so I really tell people, business owners especially, your most important asset, the biggest thing that isn't on your balance sheet, is you and your own health. And so managing your stress and supporting your health is really the critical thing I think you can do to have a successful business.
And so this biofeedback, you said sends signals. So it can read the stress, and then it says it sends signals to, I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to use the word, like in an essence, help repair. Is that correct?
Sure. So I like to think of it as bio and feedback as almost like two separate processes. So the bio part is the part that reads your body's energy to figure out what has been stressful now or in the past. And it will give me varying levels of specificity or detail on what that is that I can share with my clients. And then on the feedback side, the rest of the session is actually retraining or retuning to try to get control over that seemingly unconscious process of our stress. So it can retrain or retune. So the same things might happen. Like for a busy business owner, your credit card statement hits your email. Ooh, I don't know if I even want to open that. Those same things happen.
And there.
Right? The same
Right.
things happen, but your body isn't as triggered by them. A lot of my clients describe it as tuning the static out of their brain. And so you have your whole brain in order to solve problems and react to things rather than being stuck in that stress place, that fight or flight mode. You don't have to fight your computer or your email. You can just deal with it.
I like the retrain and retool. Okay, so what's happening in our bodies when we are always on? We're just going.
Well, our stress response was kind of designed to get us out of physical danger. And so when you are stressed out, your energy goes from a state of balance and some of it's rerouted into emergency centers. But emergency centers, that isn't somewhere you want to live. And so you're always a little more aware. People will have more muscle tension. It can cause digestive issues. It, to your point, can impact your cognitive function and memory. It impacts sleep very negatively. Research at the Mayo Clinic and several other bodies of medicine has found up to 90% of disease is caused by stress.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. I've seen it in people. I've seen it in myself.
Yeah. So if up to 90% of things going wrong in your body could be related to stress, managing your stress level can have improvements just across the board in your health, your mental well-being, your emotional state, just everything. And then if, as a business owner or just a person, if you had those improvements, you would see improvements across all facets of your life, really.
Well, I was just going to say this. One of the questions is, how does stress impact decision-making, focus, and consistency? You just pretty much said it.
Yeah.
It can really have a big effect on it.
Well, and I think everybody kind of feels that too. You look back at a stressful time, you were starting your business, you were getting divorced, you were planning your wedding, and you look back at some things, you're like, oh, wow, what was I thinking? Because at the time, you always think you're fine, and you're doing the best that you can with all the pressure that you're under. But if you were under less pressure, you'd probably, to your point, make more logical decisions, or just at least be able to evaluate everything.
I'm thinking about that when making better decisions. I run 2 businesses. I have a lot going on. I am under stress. I'm under more stress than I actually thought I was. I did do biofeedback with Kristin last week, which we'll talk a little bit about. I didn't realize how much stress I am under after reviewing everything. And things made sense. But I think it has had an impact on my decision making because I always say my brain is too full. That's kind of my constant. I lose my train of thought all the time. I am running from one place to another. Even though I have back end support, I'm still doing that. And I think it does affect my decision making or my inability to make a decision.
Yeah.
And
sometimes when you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a big way stress can manifest is those little procrastinations or things that should be just available to us to do aren't somehow. You don't return an email. You don't, pull the trigger on something. Should I buy that swag or not? I don't know. I just wait. You put off, I need to hire someone, but it's too hard to hire someone. So I don't hire someone. And then I just, I can't make a decision on if I need someone to help me with my website, or do I really need someone to help me with bookkeeping or with my calendar? I can't even think about what I need. And you get so stressed out too, it's too hard to train someone. So then you keep living in that stress place. And I think, you and I kind of help business owners reduce stress in different ways, but finding a virtual assistant could be just huge, and maybe biofeedback helps them reduce the stress where they can see clearly that some of these functions, aren't things they should be doing. It's not the best use of their time or skills. And someone else could take that off their plate to give them more breathing room.
Oh, well, more breathing room. I can attest to that because I do have a virtual assistant, but I'm still stressed on a different level. We just do more now than what we did when I
Yes.
first hired her. I started
Mhm.
a second business after I hired her and so forth. But do you see patterns specifically with entrepreneurs?
Somewhat. One thing that I see kind of often is a lot of, especially with entrepreneurs, will come up with an equal fear of success and failure,
That
which
came up
is
on
really,
mine.
which is really interesting because it's like those people too, they're going to work really hard, but they may not ever achieve all their goals. And it could just be the goal is set too high. Or it could be a lot of times it's little procrastinations that you should do something that would make you more successful. And you do, but maybe it takes 3 days to do it and it could take one or things like that. But I do see stuff like that. Sleep issues. Another thing a lot of entrepreneurs report is wanting to be more like productive and balanced at work, but then able to shut it off and go home and enjoy time with friends and family, with their pets or children. They want to be able to like leave work at some point. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't feel like you can because you could always be returning another message on your phone or checking another data point or KPI or something. And
Or
being able
walking
to,
into your office when you work at home
yes, and
because
being
you
able
said
to
don't leave.
set that down, close the door, live your life. And biofeedback can help people a lot with that as well.
I need that too. I don't know if we talked about leaving things, letting things, letting work go and going and playing. But anyway,
Yeah.
and this is kind of what I see. I see it all the time. People are overloaded.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about my session because I did do this with Kristin last week. And so what I did, so Kristin gives you a huge report that is somewhat, it's very technical. I don't know the right word.
Yeah.
It's very technical. So what I
Mhm.
did was I threw it in ChatGPT and to give me a summary of things because I knew some of it I wasn't going to be able to get through because it takes a while to get through.
Yeah.
But nothing that ChatGPT came back with was a surprise because we had discussed it. But what it said was, I'm on all the time.
Yeah.
I need to slow down. I need to reset.
Mhm.
Like this part of my desk looks really clean, but this part of my desk is not what you cannot see
Yep.
because I don't necessarily reset and stop what I'm doing. I go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Mhm.
And part of what came out with that too was not just that I need to slow down, but it's affecting my digestive system.
Mhm.
And it said I needed to slow down my chewing and slow down my eating
Yeah.
because I eat fast. I often eat alone. I'm often watching a YouTube video or I might be streaming something if it's at night or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm usually not sitting there by myself just eating my meal. So number one, I chew too fast. I need to slow it down. I talked about taking some deep breaths. And I can tell you it's very challenging.
Yeah.
It's really challenging. I tried doing it. Number one, I don't think about my chewing when I'm chewing.
Yep.
Right? But it actually went through the whole digestive tract, the different way your food digests and how it was affecting things.
Mhm. Yep.
So, well, that was kind of crazy. And then it also just talked about some bodily issues that I have. I have osteoarthritis all over. I know it said I have asthma. It brought that up. So things that aren't surprising. I think it even mentioned ADHD, which I was diagnosed with just last year. I'm like, and that would have been interesting had I done it before I was diagnosed, but anyway, I think it was awesome. And I recommend it. I can't say that anything has changed at this point, but and tell the audience, I'll be coming back in another 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
I'll let
recommend,
folks.
a session is 90 minutes. You get a 50-page report with more than that with information on your health. I try to go over it with the first session. I love questions on the reports, but yeah, a lot of people are using AI to kind of summarize and give them, key takeaways from the reports, which is really cool. And then I recommend people come in as often as once a month or as little as quarterly, whatever kind of schedule makes sense for them based on what they're doing. And kind of knowing yourself, knowing your body, and then knowing your schedule. Like if you're an accountant and you have a busy season or an opportunity season, maybe coming in right before that, right, would be ideal. So you're going into that as low stress as you can. Or if you have a big conference that you're planning and you'll be crazy busy going up to that, maybe the last 3 months before that, you book an appointment every month to make sure you're managing the stress of planning your event. Or if your daughter's getting married or if you're getting married, think about balancing that.
I love that idea. I hadn't thought about that.
If you
Planning
can
ahead of
anticipate, if you can anticipate stress, get ahead of it. So I do work with people a lot in that way too. And I would say, yeah, definitely the highest achieving type A people I have coming in typically come in once a month and they book a session, while they're still there or immediately after. And they're the people who, too, on paper, you would think of as like the most successful. And it's interesting because a lot of them do make the time for sessions. But, for garden variety, average stress every 2 to 3 months is sufficient for a lot of people.
I like that garden variety stress. However,
garden variety.
For others, maybe more often. I'll probably be coming in more than quarterly. So besides what I saw on there, do you recall, are there any other things that I kind of missed that from my session?
Well, here's the thing. One of the things you did was sign a consent form, and the consent form says I follow HIPAA.
And you won't. Yeah.
And
so
yes, it's up. You're able to share whatever you care to, but I don't talk about anything that comes up for people. And so I like to tell my clients, whomever is sitting with me, you're the only client I've ever had or ever will have, as far as that goes, right? Because you never know what one person might find, public information and someone else would find private. So I can't speak to your session, but I appreciate you mentioning it yourself.
I respect that totally. So what are some small habits that people can do to regulate stress?
Yeah, I think just the basics, and it sounds so simple, but like make sure you're drinking some water. Have a glass of water on your desk and sip it throughout the day. One thing my clients absolutely love. Yep, I unfortunately have coffee right now. It's decaf, but still, it's morning. And so I think just making sure the basics like that water. If you don't feel like you're eating a balanced diet, a good multivitamin can be kind of cheap insurance as far as just your overall health goes. Making sure your body isn't nutrition deficient can be really big. And a lot of my clients love just even a 5 or a 10-minute like thinking walk, where you just for 5 or 10 minutes, just around the block, around the office, around whatever, just a walk thinking. So you don't bring any technology with you. You aren't listening to anything. You aren't on the phone. Just a really quick thinking walk. And it is so restorative because your eyes are looking at your computer all day and whatever's just beyond it, right? So like this is your whole world. And when you get away from your desk, even, if you work downtown, take a 5-minute walk in the skyways, take a 5-minute walk just literally around the block or around your own building. Seeing new things, it can reduce stress. It restores like your creativity. It opens up your mind for better thinking and decision making. It sounds, simple, but because it is, but people really, really benefit from it. And I try to do that. And then Lisa, you're aware of it, but right now I'm on a staycation. We drove an hour south of Minneapolis. I'm in Red Wing right now at Treasure Island Casino. This is not my house. This is the little wet bar area in our room. But I think even 1 or 2 nights away, just again, with someone that you love, or even by yourself, it's kind of amazing just to see what that can do for you, just to get a new perspective, eat some room service or whatever. That can be really restorative. And then when you return, you just hit the ground running. So my husband and I try to at least every other month, just do even 2 nights somewhere, even if it's just, we're an hour away, I'm going to be home by noon.
Yeah.
I'm working this afternoon, but right now I'm still in vacation mode, and that's really beneficial to people. And it doesn't have to be expensive or crazy. We didn't fly to Mexico or, Europe or anything.
I wanted to comment about getting out of your house. I remember, and just taking a walk. And I usually walk. I have a dog. I walk my dog. I usually am listening to music or a podcast or something. But I was feeling stressed one day, and I can't remember what time of the year it was, but it was a beautiful day. And I walked outside and I just walked looking up at the sky. And I remember it because I talked about it with somebody else after, and it gave me, it was just this, oh, this is awesome kind of feeling, which is, I don't know. I'm assuming that has part of it, or that's something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do
just
that.
Thinking walk. The thinking walk I think of as just without any other technology. So you aren't listening to anything or on the phone. And it's hard for me because I'm really close to a lot of my friends and family. And so I do love to call them when I'm out walking. And so thinking walk, it can be huge for just resetting.
I'm going to do that. Well, I want to know, we're running out of time, but who are you looking to connect with?
Mm-hmm.
In our audience, outside of that, who is a good client for you?
There really aren't any bad clients. Anyone who is struggling with stress and wants kind of a quick way to start managing it is a great client. And it also, because stress can cause up to 90% of disease, this is FDA approved for stress reduction and pain management. So I also work with people with pain, chronic pain or recent pain, or a lot of times just physical things. Something's wrong in your body and you aren't sure why. This can be really useful in managing the stress that could be exacerbating those conditions. And so kind of anyone, but my best clients tend to be people who are just open to wellness and, want to learn more about how they can take care of their own health with a more natural bent to it.
I love it. Well,
and then I guess referral partners would be anyone who talks about stress with their clients. So if you talk about stress with your clients, you would be a great referral partner, but usually it's more like chiropractors, acupuncturists, people like that who would be working on other stuff that's out of balance.
I have a good referral for you.
Thank you.
So, well, thank you, Kristin, for being on. Thank you to my audience for watching. I appreciate it. We're going to be back again next week, and we'll see you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.